Hello guys, and welcome to my first Battlefield Hardline video. All things considered, this is an extremely exciting time to be a Battlefield fan. With changes from the CTE or community test environment being slowly rolled out into Battlefield 4, we have seen a gradual improvement from the original state of Battlefield into a much more playable and enjoyable game. The new high frequency update has improved hit detection and is preventing people being shot around corners as often as they were before, and has generally improved Battlefield 4 to the playable and enjoyable game we all hoped it was when it released. It may have taken DICE a while, but it's finally being fixed, and we're finally able to enjoy Battlefield 4 as the game that we were promised. In addition to this, new DLC will be upcoming in the next few months. We have 2 packs left to receive for premium members, so I'm very much looking forward to what they can offer us with that. Hopefully the maps will be on par or better than the Naval Strike DLC, which in my opinion has been the best DLC for Battlefield 4 so far, and the maps are extremely playable, extremely enjoyable and well designed. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what DICE can come up with for the last 2 DLC packs. Hopefully they'll include some more cool weapons, maybe something like a Chris Vector that we haven't seen in a Battlefield game yet, and it will just be exciting to see what they actually include in it and what we get as premium members for the end of Battlefield 4's life cycle. I will continue playing it even after Hardline is released, as I really enjoy the maps, especially Zavod, which is probably my favourite alongside Golmud Railway. I think they're brilliant maps, and I really enjoy Battlefield 4 now, especially with the CTE's changes and the high frequency update system. Now onto the main event, Battlefield Hardline. Well, this game was announced a few weeks before E3, and through leaks people began to speculate and work out that it was a police-themed version of Battlefield developed by Visceral Games rather than DICE. So this is the first non-DICE Battlefield, and that in itself is a break from tradition and a new step in a new direction for the Battlefield series, and it's very exciting to see what a fresh hands will do with the series, as long as they stay true to the roots that Battlefield have laid. Now, Visceral Games are known for their work on single player titles such as the Dead Space games, and I've played Dead Space 1, 2 and briefly 3, and I really enjoy especially the first one. I think they're really good games. So it'll be interesting to see what they can add to the Battlefield games. Visceral are well known and well renowned for their single player campaigns and for the well told stories that exist within their narratives. This may actually mean we have a decent and engaging single player campaign within this Battlefield game, and I am hoping that we do. I'm hoping we get some good characters that we're interested in and care about. I'm hoping we get a complex narrative, and hopefully it won't just be linear shoot 'em up. Hopefully you'll be able to use some of the chaos, the destruction and the vehicles, the sort of player agency that you get in the multiplayer, where you can work out how you're going to deal with a certain area and a certain number of enemies your own way. You can ram a jeep covered in C4 at them and blow them up if you want, or you can run in with your gun, or you can use a riot shield, or you can silently take them out with a knife. Hopefully we get a bit of the agency and chaos and player choice that you get in the multiplayer in the single player, and couple that with a brilliant narrative, and you'd have yourself a fantastic single player game. Hopefully Visceral can bring their single player skill to crafting a well told and engaging Battlefield campaign, and if they do, I will be one happy bunny. I love campaigns, I love single player games. I really enjoy games like Metro, where you actually feel for the characters and you get immersed in the world. There's atmosphere, there's lore, there's background to the characters in it, and if you wait around you hear people talking and it just engages you with the story, and I hope that they can do something similar with the Battlefield Hardline campaign. Now, I know I'm probably setting myself up for disappointment. Battlefield is not known for their single player, and as a result I'm going in there with hopes that there'll be a good single player, not expectations, because to be honest I don't want to just be completely disappointed when it releases and it's just a rehash of everything we've seen in every other Battlefield campaign. But here's hoping it's not, and they've actually taken time to make an interesting campaign and not just tacked it on there for some box art and something to put on the back. Let's hope it's actually good and enjoyable. Battlefield games are focused around their multiplayer. That's what the fans like best. they just love the multiplayer, and I am no different. The multiplayer is my favourite part about Battlefield. Battlefield is my favourite multiplayer series. I absolutely love it. I keep coming back every single time they release a new game, and I play Battlefield probably a bit every day if I have time, and I love it. I love recording footage of it, I love talking about it, I love being a part of the community, and I love playing the game simply. And with all these new updates to Battlefield 4, we now have Battlefield 4 we can play. And then at the E3 EA press conference, they announced that the Battlefield Hardline beta was open, and for me and probably every other Battlefield fan watching, it made you sort of freeze on the spot for a second in shock, and then quickly log on to Battlefield and type in your details as quickly as possible and hope that all the places hadn't been filled. And I managed to get on the beta, as you can see from the footage, and since EA's press conference I played about 9 hours already. I love it. I think it's brilliant. I think it's a really good take on the Battlefield formula. It feels new, fresh and exciting while still retaining that familiarity and Battlefield feeling that we have all grown to love as Battlefield fans. Hardline was announced, and many people were skeptical about how the theme could fit in with Battlefield as a series, as it has always been a war game at heart. The title Battlefield, many people don't think that you can have a full-scale Battlefield in the middle of America between cops and robbers. It's like, it's not something people could picture working inside a Battlefield title. Hardline has done its very best to create domestic battlefields between cops and robbers, between good guys and bad guys, where the bad guys are trying their very best to steal loot, the cops are there to protect it, neither side's giving an inch, and it results in a huge firefight. And this type of domestic war zone has not been seen in a Battlefield game before, and that is very exciting, that now you're playing as a SWAT team instead of a soldier, but you're still part of the sort of tactical elite. You're a trained warrior basically, and you're having to fight on your home turf against domestic threats rather than external ones. It's interesting how you can see the influences from films like Heat. That bank scene in Heat where Robert De Niro and his crew come out of the bank and they see the FBI outside and they have a running gun battle in the street. A lot of the time I was playing the Hardline beta, I was picturing that scene, the sort of carnage and action, tension and drama that creates, the fact that you're having a massive firefight in a domestic situation. I mean, civilians live in these buildings and things, and I think that makes the firefights seem all the more visceral. See what they did there. And the developers understand this. Instead of just a picture as a loading screen, you have a newsreel depicting the events that are unfolding in the city, warning people to stay in. It's saying they've evacuated because of the robbers being so violent and all this stuff, and it provides context to what you're doing in the multiplayer. And even just such a subtle and simple thing as having a loading screen which actually corresponds to the story of the multiplayer helps you feel like the fight is actually for something, and makes the multiplayer have more direction, more focus and more cohesion, and as a result I think it's better for it. I think Visceral have managed to be extremely clever and very effective at portraying a new area and a new field for Battlefield to explore. And as a result, I have to give them credit, because I did not expect this to work anywhere near as well as it has done in this beta. The game plays extremely smoothly, it still feels exactly like a Battlefield game. The gunplay is tense and thrilling, the recoil is even more than Battlefield 4, and the sound effects are every bit as good as Battlefield's in the past. The guns sound real, they recoil and kick like a mule, and as a result it's an extremely immersive gameplay experience. As a fan of firearms and a gun nut, I love games which simulate guns in a realistic and believable manner, and I feel Battlefield does a very good job with their sound effects and recoil patterns and things like that, and this game is no exception. I'm going to look at the guns in a bit more detail when I get onto the classes. All I can say is the guns they have in the beta are lovely, really nice, really fun to use. I just hope there are more of them on final release, because there are nowhere near enough of them in the beta to provide longevity. The gameplay is not perfect, obviously. The netcode is the same as Battlefield 4, and even with CTE it's not perfect. There's still the odd kill trade, there's still the odd kill round corner, and things like that. And the beta is still running at the 10 tick rate, so the CTE improvements are not actually in the beta, but they will be ready for final release, and I cannot wait to try this game with better netcode. I haven't been killed around corners too often in the game, but it still feels like Battlefield 4's netcode before the CTE, and I just can't wait to get the 30 Hz high frequency update. And hopefully this will enable Battlefield Hardline to have the launch that Battlefield 4 deserved and get away from all of the problems that we had when Battlefield 4 launched. Because when Battlefield launched last year, it was a disaster. It was the worst launch of any game ever, and for a long-standing fan of the Battlefield series, it was a severe disappointment. And I'm pleased to say that Battlefield is in a much better state now, and with Hardline 4 months away from a release, it's in a much better place to have a good launch that all games should have. One thing I've noticed playing the beta is that the game seems to be a lot more focused on infantry combat rather than vehicles. Vehicles still exist, but to a lesser degree than in, say, Battlefield 4, Battlefield 3. It does seem much more focused on the infantry combat, but again, we've only got access to one map, so it could just be the map layout and the vehicles that exist in that map. Maybe there'll be some more vehicle-orientated maps for those players who are more inclined to spend their time in tanks or in vehicles, or helicopters, which is a perfectly viable playstyle for Battlefield. I think that the people that do prefer vehicles to infantry combat will still find much to like in Hardline. You don't have tanks, but you do have APCs. There's scout choppers, which seem rather powerful. I was in one game where we were basically on very imbalanced teams, and 2 DICE employees were just running around in a chopper just killing everyone as soon as they appeared and spawned, which was not much fun, but that was the only game which I didn't enjoy, and it could just be that DICE are overpowered rather than the chopper. The infantry-based nature of the new game, alongside the backseat nature of the vehicles, which are more focused for transport than attack, makes the infantry combat all the more tense and all the more tactical, which for me is a brilliant thing. I've always wanted Battlefield to feel as tactical as possible, and to reward tactical and cautious play, and I think they are doing that in Hardline. They seem to have upped the time to kill with certain weapons. The M16 and the AKM, for example, are very fast to kill, and as a result you can down people very fast if you're able to control the recoil, which seems even more than Battlefield 4. And it feels like a really fun, tactical, thinking man's first-person shooter, and for me that is a brilliant thing. I'm really pleased that they're going the more tactical, more thinking, cautious route, as it rewards skillful play. The beta comes with 2 new game modes which have never been seen in Battlefield games before, and I think both of them work extremely well, and I can see myself playing them a lot. I don't know whether Conquest and Rush are going to make an appearance in this game. I would like to see them, and maybe they could put a sort of bank robber twist on them, but that will remain to be seen. I reckon they'll do something with them, as they're sort of mainstays of the Battlefield series. But the new game modes are extremely enjoyable. They're very tense and they're very clever. They've done a very good job to tie in the sort of game modes with the themes and the stories that you create around cops and robbers. So the first game mode is called Heist, and it's like a mixture between Rush, Obliteration and Capture the Flag. You start off and you see sort of a cutscene, which is an in-game cutscene, so you're walking around and you see a big crash and an explosion, and 2 armoured vehicles which are transporting money are blown up, and you have to, if you're the robbers, plant charges and then escort the loot out to your escape vehicle. If you're the cops, you're obviously trying to prevent the robbers from doing this, and it's a really fun, tense game mode. It does seem to finish rather quickly if the teams aren't balanced, and that's one thing I have to say about both game modes. The teams do not seem to be balanced very often. I've had many games where the other team have literally had no chance, and it's a shame really, and it doesn't seem to auto-balance between rounds. I hope they get this sorted for the full release so that we actually can have some balanced games. But apart from that, I love the heist game mode of the 2. I think it's the most cinematic and the most sort of adrenaline fueled. However, Blood Money, which is the second game mode, is a bit like Conquest mixed with Capture the Flag again. There's a central money pile and both teams have to try and get it to their base, get money to their base, and it's the first to reach $5 million who wins. So the cops are trying to get the money as evidence, and the robbers are obviously trying to make out with their loot. There are many ways you can get the loot. You can take it from the central money pile, you can shoot the enemy who are carrying money and take the money from their corpse, which is really satisfying, because not only do you get the points for the kill, you also then have all this money lying around, which you then pick up and drop it off in your safety deposit van back in your base. Or you can raid the enemy base, do like an assault on their van, but just be aware that they can spawn around you, so it can get very hectic very quickly, and it's probably not a good idea if the other team are working well together, unless you have a good squad that are working together as well. So both game modes are extremely fun, they're very tense, and they're brilliant additions to the Battlefield series, and I really enjoy playing both of them. Alongside these new game modes, they've added some new mechanics to fit with the cops and robbers theme. The takedowns can be arrests, which take down your victims instead of killing them, and then you can interrogate them, which gives you and your team some information on the other team's whereabouts for a certain amount of time. This is a good idea. It will remain to be seen whether or not it's overpowered or not. We'll see. Additionally, they've changed the cash system and leveling, so instead of leveling up via XP, you level up via cash, and you buy your weapons when you unlock them rather than getting them automatically. This is good because it fits with the sort of cash themed ideas of cops and robbers, and it works very well. Finally, they've changed the hit marker icon, and in my opinion it makes it a lot clearer when you get a hit, and especially when you get a headshot, because if you hit the head, not only do you get the blood spurt, you also get your crosshair turning red, which I think is a brilliant idea, and it helps you know when you get a headshot so you can keep on target. I think that's a really good idea, and I'm really pleased they put it in. The map is called High Tension, and for a Battlefield map it's not particularly large, it's sort of mid-sized, it's not tiny, but it's also not expansive like say Golmud Railway or Caspian Border, but it doesn't need to be. As an urban combat map it works extremely well, the gameplay on it is very fluid, the two game modes work flawlessly in the environment, and with a lot of verticality and hidey holes alongside the new gadgets such as the zip line or the grappling hook means that more areas than ever before are accessible, which means you have to be looking in all directions, you have to be extremely cautious when you round a corner because there could be people hiding literally anywhere, and it just makes for a more tactical, more sort of tense gameplay. The graphics engine is powered by Frostbite 3. It's as beautiful as Battlefield 4 was. Battlefield 4 is an extremely good looking game, and it will remain to be a good looking game and a benchmark for multiplayer graphics for years to come, and this game continues that. Also back from Battlefield 4 is Levolution, but this time improvements have been made to make the gameplay be more focused around the Levolution rather than it just being either an annoyance or just window dressing. The crane is brought down in this particular map, and it creates a bridge and more cover for players, and as a result it changes the flow of the map. It makes it a lot more difficult to acquire targets in that area, and it makes transporting cash faster in that particular zone, as you can just run straight down the broken limb of the crane. And I think it's really cool that the actual map changes dynamically like that, and it's what Levolution was in only a couple of maps in Battlefield 4, where it actually has an impact on gameplay and doesn't just look cool. Before I finish this video today, I just want to take a brief look at the classes available in Battlefield Hardline Beta. I'm going to be doing a video shortly of the classes in more detail, but for now I'm just going to look at 4 weapons that we have available in the beta. We have the AKM, which is amazing. I love AKs and Kalashnikovs, so it's really nice to see a traditional AK with tactical furniture making an appearance in the game. It has high damage and really high recoil, so for those who can control the recoil, it drops enemies really fast and is a really fun gun to use. Secondly, we have the 38 snub revolver, and the reason I brought this up is it doesn't have the annoying Battlefield 4 trigger delay, so let's just hope all the other revolvers are the same and they don't have that stupid delay that they put on in Battlefield 4. Thirdly, we have the R700, which is one of my favourite sniper rifles in real life. And finally, we have one of the most interesting and exciting new additions to the Battlefield games, the double-barreled sawn-off shotgun. I love 12 gauge shotguns, especially side-by-sides. and so adding this to a Battlefield game makes me extremely happy. I've had so much fun with this gun since the beta was announced and released, and I implore you all to go out, have fun with it. Let's just hope that we're able to get a wide variety of weapons in the final game, with as big an arsenal as in Battlefield 4, as that's part of the reason why Battlefield games have such good longevity and are so interesting for such a long time. I also hope we'll be able to add camos to our weapons, as I don't think this is a feature in the beta, but they may add it in later on. Okay guys, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment and subscribe. Thanks for watching, goodbye.